Hello friends, welcome back, and in this lesson we shall be looking at symptoms of belladonna. Belladonna is a very large remedy. In other words, it has got tremendous number of symptoms. I shall be attaching a document which will be showing the provings of belladonna, and you shall see that it affects almost every system, organ and part of the body tremendously. You will recall from one of our previous lessons that belladonna can be summarized as shown in the graphic. Blind as a bat, red as a beet, hot as a hair, dry as a bone, mad as a hatter, bloated as a toad, and heart runs alone. So these are mnemonics that you can memorize or you can remember very easily, and they tell you the principal general characteristics of the symptoms you will see in a person who requires belladonna. Let's take a look at the person. The person is having a constitution where he is vigorous and intellectual. Also, they are in a good state of health generally and reasonably plethoric. Plethoric means they are large sized and everything about them is big. And they are vascular. In other words, there's a lot of blood flow, and generally they'll be red faced even in normal circumstances, or they become red faced if they're exposed to the sun or if they strain. Also, this person exhibits sudden onset of symptoms for any kind of an ailment, and usually that ailment runs on a regular course and then subsides. So they are vigorous and intellectual people. In other words, they are persons who have an active immune system which acts fast, but they also recover fast. Heat is something unusual. In any ailment, the factor of heat, suppose they are having a swelling, it will be very hot if you touch, it will be very red if you see. So these are general characteristics which stand out for a person who requires belladonna. The fever never comes on gradually. There are some remedies where this is a characteristic where the fever develops slowly. For example, ferrum phos, gelsemium. Persons requiring that will have symptoms which are gradually developing over the course of time. Belladonna, like aconite, comes on very fast. And as we have seen in the case of aconite, it is more related to that phase where the nervous system is acting from the sympathetic angle. Belladonna is the parasympathetic system out of whack. In other words, the aconite state has passed, and now the belladonna state is to get the person back to normal in a reasonably quick time. Delirium is also observed in freedom. People start talking, they are delirious. There are some other delirium remedies which we'll study later in the course, but belladonna is delirious in a fever. Fever is very high, rapid, and severe. Once again, we'll summarize all the points that we had in a slide earlier. There is dry heat, there is dryness of eyes, lips, nose, tongue, throat, vagina. The cough is also dry. So dryness is a very marked characteristic. We shall see another dry remedy later, which is bryonia. But bryonia will be affecting a different tissue. Red conjunctiva, face. The tongue has got red edges even though it may be coated with white in the center. The throat, tonsils, all these things will be of a deep red color. The color is very important. You'll study another remedy called apis where you will have swellings, but those swellings are pink and not red. As mentioned earlier, the action of belladonna symptoms are very rapid and sudden. You will find pain appearing and disappearing suddenly. You'll also see sudden neuralgic pains such as sciatica, knees, or in the liver region. So here it is suddenness, which will be your guide. There could be a sudden loss of voice. There are other remedies for loss of voice. For example, causticum is indicated for aphonia, but belladonna is characterized by the sudden loss of voice. Toothache will be very sudden and it will be paroxysmal. Convulsions, spasms will all be sudden and paroxysmal. So suddenness is another characteristic. You just remember the word, and if you see something that is hot, dry, red, and sudden onset, belladonna could be your friend. Also, this remedy has got a lot of symptoms related to fright or fear, for example, and this is quite characteristic and it will identify the remedy and differentiate it from other remedies. For example, belladonna has got fear of dogs. It has got fear of imaginary things, fear of people, something what we call as anthropophobia, fear of jumping out of bed with fear. Once you see all these symptoms, you could also have frightened easily during a fever. Once you notice all these symptoms, you will realize the value of narrative medicine. Narrative-based medicines requires us to hear and listen to the story of the patient. Those words, those adjectives, those figures of speech are going to guide you to the remedy. For example, if the person says, I just feel like jumping out of bed, I'm so scared, that's a very good indication of belladonna. Belladonna has got tremendous effect on the mind, which you will see from the document attached in this section of the provings. They fear something will burst with cough. They desire to attack others. They may start biting people when they are in a delirious state. Or they may make violent gestures. So it's a very violent remedy. It's a sudden remedy. So just bear this in mind. This is an excellent remedy to start your study. Aconite, belladonna, and chamomilla. These are 3 ABC remedies, and they teach us so much about the study of remedies in homeopathy. If you look at fever, once again, you will see that these characteristics stand out. There is intense heat with convulsions, stupefaction. The temperature of the skin is very much raised, and the skin will be scarlet or red. Coldness of limbs with heat of the head. A very contrasting thing, but something that will stand out and help you select this remedy. Fever, heat, now and then sweat. They often ask for a drink but do not take much. Cerebrospinal fever, meningitis in the initial stages. The pulse also will exhibit the same characteristics. Full and frequent pulse, full, hard, tense, bounding. These are the kind of characteristics you will see. Violent palpitation, reverberations in the head. Tremor of the heart with anguish, throbbing of the carotid arteries, and at times a slow thread or irregular pulse. There is one contraindication for belladonna, and that is prickly heat or a heat rash. Even though it is red, even though it is associated with heat, belladonna is not indicated in this case. There are some more peculiarities of this remedy which help you identify. Fear of dogs, fear of black dogs in particular. Another peculiarity is the person will catch a cold after having a haircut. A headache with a desire for lemonade. And if you will recall from a previous slide, lemonade makes the person feel better. The symptoms are better with lemonade. Although lemons are bad. Headache is better during menses. Great thirst without thirst. Burning heat in the whole face without redness of cheeks. So these are very peculiar symptoms, and that's why a good observation, you must see the patient in totality, and that's what this particular slide wishes to emphasize. Modalities are things which make a person or the symptoms feel better or worse. Bending head backwards makes a person feel better, for example in headaches. Passing flatulence also makes the person feel better. Passing tongue over the teeth. The person may not report this, but you could observe it during the interview. A person may feel worse if he's touched. Worse with a jar, for instance, anything that is jarring, it could be a noise, it could be a sensation, that makes the symptoms worse. Noise, lying down makes it worse, and a draft or change of weather also makes it feel worse. Afternoon is not a particularly good time for Belladonna people. So thank you very much for your attention, and we shall meet once again in a later lesson. Until then, bye bye.